the chimney smoking.
Beautiful song by Ella Fitzgerald, that my guest selected. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today for Deborah Kobylt Live. Have a real interesting brother and sister duo for our show today. We've got Lisa Orkin in studio. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
You are I know we have an enormous radio audience here, right? A studio audience, right? They're
crazy.
all clapping for you. You know, there you go. You do lots of things, but you're also the host of a very popular podcast called Project Woo Woo. You'll have to tell us a little bit about that. Mm-hmm. But you also do a lot of work with podcasters, and you help people grow their podcasts and make money with their podcasts. Also calling us from Oregon is Harris Orkin, your brother.
Who?
Harris.
Harris. Yeah.
And Harris is actually a friend of the show. He wrote a very well-known book called You Only Live Once. You are also a virtual reality game designer. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually all video games. I'm working on my first virtual reality one, but
so all video games.
Yeah, I've been working on lots of big video games the last 10 years.
Right, and your book is out in bookstores now, especially for the holidays. It's a great thing to pick up. But what's interesting about the two of you, aside from the fact that you get along so well, you come from an interesting broadcasting background. Your father, Dick Orkin, was a well-known radio man. He started the Chickenman series for people out there who might know of the Chickenman series. And my question to you first, Lisa, was what was it like growing up with a dad who was so well known in the business, and now you're in the same business, although it's podcasting?
Yeah, it's interesting. It was really embarrassing as a kid.
Yeah, it's always embarrassing.
Yeah, just because he dressed up like a chicken, and he balked, and he would go to malls, and he'd fly across stages, and so I think in some ways it was really embarrassing. And then he also did a character called the Tooth Fairy, which he wore purple tights, had very skinny legs. Always skinny-legged characters. And but, then eventually it was kind of cool. It was like cool and embarrassing. Like, yeah, that's my dad, whatever.
Yeah, the dude at the mall who looks like a chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my dad. Your dad is works in accounting, and he's in an office in a suit.
Yeah.
My dad's wearing a chicken suit. Oh,
Yeah.
my glory.
Yeah.
Harris, I know you worked for your dad. You wrote comedy, right, for his show?
I did. Well, I wrote some of the episodes, but I wrote a lot of comedy radio commercials for him as well.
Like what?
Well, for everything from Pepsi to Time Magazine to, I mean,
Cars.
BMW. Yeah, we did I would say pretty much every single kind of industry and store. We at one time or another we did commercials for. So yeah, and I just recently found the chicken suit when I moved. Actually,
no.
Yeah, I did. I was in a box, and they bought it originally from the Folies Bergère, I guess, and so now we reclaimed it. Yeah.
You know what's funny, Harris? I just found the feet.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Wait. So Dad gave you the feet, and you got the chicken suit. Look, at least you got a little piece of the action,
yeah.
right? I mean, it's always hard when parents, I know your dad passed on a year ago this month, actually. It's very difficult. And it's always tough when you're going through stuff and you have siblings or a sibling. I have one sibling, and you're going through stuff saying, no, wait, I want that dress. I remember where she wore it. And it's like, here, you take a sleeve. I'll take the bottom.
Yeah.
And so you got the feet.
I got the feet. It's sort of where it sits in my family most of the time. I got the feet. And yes, that's the deal. So, yeah, Harris and I actually worked together at the Radio Ranch creating commercials together for years.
And tell us what the Radio Ranch is for people who don't know.
Oh, so that's where Harris wrote commercials. That's where we made all those commercials for years. My dad's company, the Radio Ranch.
Wow.
And so that's together we both did it.
Give me an example of one. Do we have any examples, by the way, or no?
Oh, yeah, you can go to the Radio Ranch website, radio-ranch.com, and grab one.
Yeah, if you can grab one while we're on the air, that'd be great. So your dad ran, it was his company, the Radio Ranch, and all sorts of commercials went through there. Now, were they audio and video commercials, or?
Once in a while there was a video commercial, or like TV commercial, but it was, 98% audio.
I mean,
So, yeah.
your brother did the famous Carl's Jr. commercial.
He did, not for the Radio Ranch.
Not for the Radio
Yeah.
Ranch. I got to get it together, like who
Yeah.
did what when.
Yeah.
But all of that background, right, contributed to you in later years, Harris, doing that commercial. What was that like? You worked on that one with Paris Hilton?
Yeah. the Paris Hilton spot. I just was hired. It was Mendelssohn Zine Advertising, and they got the Carl's account. And originally we came up with that commercial. We were kind of making fun of using sex in commercials, and it was so successful that the people at Carl's Jr. said, we need to use sex in every commercial. So now after that they started having all these commercials with these like sexy women, even though the very first one was meant to kind of make fun of the whole idea.
They have a new one out there, right, where the woman is truly poking fun at being sexy.
Yeah,
yes,
I just saw
they do.
that.
So they have a new agency, and I thought that was great that they're making fun of that. With the Paris Hilton commercial, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I really like that. Actually, I almost feel like it didn't put her in the best light, and
Yeah.
I didn't really appreciate that. Meaning the actress who was in the latest Carl's Jr. I almost found it a little insulting. What did you think?
You know what?
Kinda
Yeah, it's advertising, so I just
Yeah, I know.
figure, I just didn't. I just went, oh, interesting. I don't think I had any thoughts about it.
Yeah, and guess what? We're talking about it.
Yeah,
It's advertising, and we're
yeah.
talking about the actress in the latest Carl's Jr. commercial. So
Yeah.
job done, right?
Yeah,
Job well done.
Yeah, got your attention.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you a little bit and your podcast, because what's interesting to me is the origin of modern broadcasting really is radio, not television, but radio. And now all the buzz, and I have a husband who has a very, very successful show in Los Angeles on the radio, but all the buzz is podcasts. And for example, they even talked to him about a podcast. And he's like, look, just slice up my show and put it out there as a podcast, and which is what they do. But everyone almost seems obsessed about podcasting. Why? Like, how is it so different from radio?
Well, I think you can really pick and choose what you want to hear. I think that
But can't you do that on the radio?
I think you can do this even more. You can sort of really, you can just sort of pick when you want to listen to it at any time. You don't have to go, oh, it's on at 5 o'clock and that's when I listen.
Right, when you're driving home irritated or something.
Yeah. You can go, I want to listen to it now. So you can pick and choose when you're going to listen to it. You can get really specific. There's no rules to podcasting. No rules.
Definitely not. Just look where you are right now.
Yeah, so I think that there's no rules. You can do anything. The sky's the limit.
Bad language.
Yeah, bad language. Or even the subject matter. I mean, people niche down. Look, if you want to do a podcast
About feet. Nail polish.
Yeah, then you know what? You can probably do that, and there will be listeners.
Yoga.
Yeah. Or there's only 18 kinds of yoga, so you could.
You better believe it is so niche, which is kind of neat about it.
Yeah.
It's also difficult to get an audience because I know that you do sort of a. How would you characterize your show?
Well, it's kind of like if Andy Kaufman and Katie Couric had a baby that was a podcast. It's sort of because
I'm envisioning this.
Okay, yeah, it's because I have like my really good actor buddies and comedians in Los Angeles play the people I always wanted to talk to.
I want to be on your podcast.
Okay,
I'm
so
like for real. I really want to be
you
on
can't play you. You have to be someone else.
That's very easy.
So yeah, and like I love self-help people. So like I just had Timothy Leary on, played by Phil Proctor.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, so all kinds of I just did Abraham Lincoln, played by the comedian Rich Scheidner.
That's super cool. That's really, really, really interesting. What an interesting listen. I get lost when I listen to podcasts. Mine's more of, if you will, a variety show, kind of like an Ellen. There could be an actor, there could be a comic, there could be a podcaster, there could be really anyone. Someone who wrote a book. I love to have authors on, which is how I met your brother.
Oh,
Harris.
yeah.
Let's go back to Harris. How you doing over there in Oregon, Harris?
I am doing fine. It's nice up here. Cold, but good.
Yeah. Your brother just moved up there to Oregon.
We're all really angry with him still.
Yeah.
they
And
are.
we truly are. There's a family Hanukkah party this weekend, and he's not going to be there. Whatever.
This is really
Harris.
the only way I could talk to her. I had to just do this interview with her because
Yeah.
she wouldn't talk to me otherwise.
Yeah, because I really am so.
I feel like I'm doing family counseling now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm right in the middle. It's like Harris is up there, avoiding the family Hanukkah party.
Yeah.
Up in Oregon, you're down here.
Yeah, he
doing
writes
your
a book and then he leaves.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's what happens when people get very famous.
Yeah, whatever.
But going back to your dad, do we have a clip from Dick Orkin and the work that he did? I know we have clips. I just don't recall what order we have them
We
in.
have a few of them. We have the Tooth Fairy one. We also have the Chickenman.
Oh, let's go to Chickenman. Should we go to Chickenman?
Yeah.
Let's play that for a few
Yes, may
seconds.
I help you?
How do you do?
I'm looking for a costume.
What did you have in mind?
Something that will strike terror into the hearts of criminals everywhere.
I see. Well, how about this?
No, I don't think so.
Why not try it on?
Very well.
Here, I'll help you.
Thank you.
There you are. Now, take a look in the mirror.
Not bad. I wonder if you would permit me to conduct a quick experiment outside this store.
Certainly.
Pardon me, sir.
Yeah.
Are you by chance a vicious criminal?
Uh-huh.
Fine. Would you take a look at this costume I'm wearing?
Yeah.
Do you feel anything strange? Anything at all?
Yeah.
And what is that?
I'd like to kiss you.
Kiss me?
Yeah.
Well, let's take
How
it
do you
down
account
from
for
there.
that?
Oh, that
Because
is.
you look like an adorable bunny rabbit.
Oh my gosh. Is that not brilliant?
Yeah.
Did this stuff come off the top of his head?
Yeah, you know.
Good God, that's hysterical.
Yeah, he was a very goofy, silly man.
And a storyteller, a
Yeah.
brilliant, and what a voice! It reminds me of the voice in help me out, Twilight Zone.
Oh, a little bit.
Rats.
Yeah.
Don't you think, Harris?
Yeah. He has a kind of a comic version of it. He has this very kind of resonant kind of Schlemiel-like voice.
Schlemiel?
So you'd hear him and you
Yes.
immediately would feel sorry for him, and you would hold him in disdain at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love listening to this. So back to storytelling and radio and podcasting. I mean, again, the original form was through radio. People telling stories. Look at Orson Welles going way back now.
Yeah.
And now that's, in my opinion, what podcasting is. It's the modern day Chickenman, right?
It
Who
is.
has the rights to all that, by the way?
Yeah. We do. We have the rights to it. That all of us kids. There's lots of us kids.
How many are there?
Yeah. There's 4 of us kids.
And do you all get along? Did you? I mean, you got the feet, he got the costume. What did the other ones get? The beak?
They didn't get anything. No, we don't like them. They're not. It's just the two, just Harris and I. Well, we did get along until he moved. No, yeah, we all get along. I think we're all like whatever. We don't, whoever wants to deal with Chickenman, it's great. And
Yeah, but it's brilliant. I'm listening and
Yeah.
getting lost in Chickenman for the 30 seconds that we had it on because it's a story and you can envision. The reason why I love radio stories more than anything and podcasting and some terrific radio shows currently out there. Wink, wink. They create a story for you. And
do.
what I see as I'm listening is very different than what you might be seeing and envisioning as you're listening.
And I think podcasting, like radio, it's actually truly like a very visual medium. So like you can do anything. Like you can jump out of an airplane and nobody know. It's much cheaper than film. Because you can jump out of an airplane in a studio and nobody knows there's not really an airplane. You can just create that.
With the sound effects.
Yeah.
The old-fashioned sound effects. And I
Yeah.
heard the sound effects loud and clear.
Yeah.
And the little Chickenman clip that we had, right? Was
Yeah.
it like footsteps
Yeah.
or whatever?
Footsteps are kind of our trademark. Yeah.
I remember the first time I went to Universal Studios and, you take that tour and I went into the little sound area and, like people walking on stones and how they would create like monster effects. And I was so enthralled by that.
Yeah.
Because I think the sound effects, aside from the voice and all together, really create that story and picture, you know.
I think if there's anything he gave to Harris and I, it's just the idea that our imagination, we can do almost anything. Like so I think both of us cut our teeth on just imagining and telling stories.
What were you guys like as kids? Harris, I'll start with you because Lisa is taking up all the oxygen in this interview. So let's start with you.
Well, she's there in person. Also, Lisa's just really, she's just really great on microphone. So, as I was a little kid, I was very
dorky.
I was actually very dorky and quiet, and I spent a lot of time alone in my room. But because I did,
Typical
I
radio guy.
Yeah.
These
Right.
dorky radio people. I'm married to one. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it gives you time to use your imagination and make up stories. And I'd play with little toy soldiers. And honestly, what I do now is pretty much exactly the same thing.
You're a dorky
Creating-
guy playing with toy soldiers in your room?
Yeah, with his video games, creating video games. That's basically. And it's funny because I think of radio as being a very interactive medium, which got only translated into games. Because with radio, you're connecting to someone else's imagination. Like you said, everyone sees something different in their mind.
Without a doubt, yeah.
Right. So that's pretty interactive, So, and that's that's what video games are as well. So.
I was just going to say, all of that leads to the evolution of the video game and what you do in creating. What do you do with lately with the video games? You also ventured into the virtual reality games, right?
Yeah, so that that's like the newest technology there, and there's not as the install base for people who own that is smaller, but it changes how the players relate to the world because you're kind of engulfed in it like the holodeck. You're in the middle of it, so it changes the way you have to tell the stories too. It's a little bit close to the theater because player can move in any direction, and you have to kind of get their attention to talk to them. And it's interesting. It's just very different.
I think
I
I
don't know
told. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's probably you. You have kids, right? They probably play video games.
Well, this is
right?
weird. I have 3 kids and they're boys and they never play video games
Oh.
unless, wait, no, it's weird. Let me tell you, unless their friends come over. So we have all the gadgets and everything. I don't get it. I have one kid who loves to write and he's more of a theater kind of very creative kid. So he's not into it. My second one is like he's studying archaeology and he was always out in the backyard sifting through the dirt looking for some relic. And my third one is really a dedicated athlete. So none of them would do it. And I'd be like, why don't you go play the video games that you got for Christmas? And they wouldn't. They're the rarest 3 boys ever. They don't play. But I was going to tell you, do you know the name Flint Dilley?
Yeah, I know Flint.
Yeah. He's a very, very good friend of ours. And he's one of the creators of Pokemon Go. Oh, yeah. And his bank account must look pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
But so he's got the same kind of personality. He's always at home at 3 a.m. designing something odd, and then he goes off and plays tennis with my husband. Like minds find each other. So you're all sort of the same kind of guy.
Yeah. Now, Lisa, you're a little different, but you're actually, you're kind of introverted in your own way, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
I'm sort of like an introverted extrovert. I can
Me too.
Yeah, I can do really well socially, and then I need to go and be in my room by myself.
No, I am the same way. And
Yeah.
people will look at me and say, "Oh, you're an extrovert." I'm like, no way. You know, I sort of, how do I say this? Pretend to be an extrovert because sometimes I get so nervous in situations that if I talk too much, it'll help me. Does that make sense?
And I get overwhelmed by crowds.
Me too.
But I think I was probably somewhat of a dorky kid, but I was always kind of, cool dorky.
You were a cool dork?
I was kind of
your brother was the nerd dork playing with the soldiers in his room, and you were the cool dork.
Yeah, because I always dressed my mom always dressed me really funky cool, so I think
neat.
people thought I was not as dorky, thankfully to my mother.
Because you dressed dorky cool.
Yeah,
Thanks, Mom.
yeah. And, and then I was always funny. That was my way of living in the world. So that got me farther.
So you do stand-up comedy. Let's talk a little bit about that
yeah.
because you and I have that in common. I'm a very esteemed stand-up comic myself. So tell me where you do that.
Well, I used to do it all over the place. Comedy Store, Improv. I do a lot more storytelling these days. I'm more of an LA-based storyteller.
Okay. How do you do that and where? Because when I did comedy, I tend to stand up there almost like Mrs. Maisel, and stuff comes out of my mouth, and my husband's thinking, oh, my God, I had no idea. And then the lights go down, and the microphone's gone, and it's over. And friends of mine said, that's not like comedy. You're not telling jokes. And I'm like, well, it was funny. It's like I'm almost a storyteller. Is that okay to do that when you're on stage?
I think you can do
I'm
giving you permission to do anything you want to do. It's
inviting you
your
to my next
stage,
show.
and you should just be whatever you want to be, because that's the world.
Yeah, I think so. So do you do that when you're on stage with comedy? Do you tell a story?
Yeah, I'm a storyteller. I'm a total, But usually a story with a beginning, middle, and an end. I have a very specific, and then I just wrangle jokes in there if they seem to bring it along, I won't put the joke in there if it's not going to sort of move the story
Right, you need a
forward.
laugh, right? You need your applause, like we had earlier in the show.
Yeah. If I could just have that applause track at home for when I get up in the
Track?
morning. Is
I didn't-
real? Oh, it was real.
Yeah, we have a whole
Jesus,
bunch
I'm
of people.
so sorry.
Oh, honey, we have a
in
whole
my
room.
Head, that's right. Hi,
Yeah.
everybody. I'm so sorry I called you a track. Don't pay attention to me.
But all of this, once again, I love to look at the evolution of where things came from because I'm absolutely so big on this. What's old is new, and what's new becomes old again. And then it's just such a cycle. I mean, going way back to the beginning of time. And again, a genre that people really thought was dead, especially with the evolution of cable and whatnot. It's almost like radio stories, podcasting. is the resurgence is unbelievable.
Yeah, I think it works for Harrison and I since we live in the audio medium. I think
Yeah.
it's a good place.
Well, then
It's funny. I don't think people even think of it as radio too. So
what,
it's, you know,
podcasting?
yeah.
Yeah.
I do
But
only
they-
because I
they
live in
should,
that
though,
world.
right? Yeah.
I do. I feel like it's just a modern form of radio.
It
You can
is.
find it whenever you want. But again, where did it start from? You know what I mean? Now, what about cutting through and getting seen and heard on your podcast? Because not yours, but in general, because that's really hard. Now, I know you work with podcasters on that, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of them have books. So Harris could probably have a podcast. I think a lot of them have books, and they are, so they start off or have really successful blogs. So I think they start out, or they're like a really successful actor who suddenly wants to podcast.
Or broadcasting news person.
Broadcasting news person. Yeah. So I just think that it just, and then you just like anything else in the world, you have to outreach and market yourself and put yourself out there.
But that's the hard part. And that is in a way where radio is very different, or modern radio, if you will, than podcasting. Because
Yes.
podcasting, I'm not a saleswoman. I can entertain all day. But then when I'm done, I'm done. And then when I have to go knocking on doors, excuse me, Cadillac, would you like to, it's just not my my bandwidth. But in radio, you've got your hosts, and then you've got this giant sales team.
Yeah.
So how do you become a salesperson and be someone who's a podcaster?
Yeah, I don't know if you need to be a salesperson as much as somebody who can grab an audience. And then when you have enough of an audience, the people come to you and say, or you go to them and they go, yeah, here's the numbers. The deal with podcasting is you can see who's listening and who those people are.
How and on what?
Yeah, like in the analytics behind the scenes of every podcast, you can see where they live, how old they are, what else they listen to.
But how? Like, what is the analytics from Libsyn or?
Yeah,
from what?
or from whatever podcast thing you're using. Even Google Analytics work if it feeds through there.
Mm-hmm.
So, depend. Libsyn, sure, yeah. I mean, yeah, Libsyn will like that. But any of the
Right, Apple
feeders,
Podcasts.
yeah. Well, Apple's different than Libsyn's an RSS feeder. So, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
You put it on Libsyn and then it feeds out to the Apple Podcast and all that.
And
yeah.
so if you can pinpoint, here's a podcast about diabetics. Well, then if you have something that you want to sell to diabetics and they have like only 500 listeners, you want to go to that podcast and advertise your diabetic, whatever that is, to them.
Now you have a business
Yeah.
that helps people do that. Isn't that correct? What do you do to help podcasters?
I sleep a lot on my couch, and I have the Radio Ranch. I own the Radio Ranch, so I make commercials and I help people write commercials for podcasting. But I also do it for restaurants, and we make commercials.
What do you mean commercials for podcasting? Like, let's say my podcast. Like, what would you do to do a commercial? You mean like kind of a promo?
So let's say this brush company came to you and said, we want you to advertise our brushes on your podcast. So then you call me, they send you 3 pieces of paper filled with copy points about how great their brush is. And then you come to me and you go, I need to talk about this brush and I have no idea how to pull this together. I then look at the copy points and I write it, and then I either voice it for you or I get you to voice it. And I may direct you so that you sound like you're talking to the audience and they want the brush. And so that's what I do.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
Very
Deborah, you're a broadcaster already. So a lot of the people Lisa would deal with didn't start as broadcasters.
Right.
So they started podcasts, but they're not really good at broadcasting. And so that's part of what she has to teach them.
Yeah.
So you already have that
That's
down.
what I find. A lot of people think they can, blogging, same thing. A lot of people think they might have something to say, but they can't quite write. And same with podcasting. I listen, I'm like, wait a minute. You have to be a little bit of an entertainer to grab me.
I mean, I think they definitely have like very successful podcasts with, probably over 100,000 downloads a week, but they've never worked in marketing and advertising. And if you're in broadcasting, part of what you had to do was sell people's products.
Right.
So they've never sold a product. So they have no idea how to look at a piece of copy or a bunch of copy points and quickly make that into a story that sounds real, that people are going to want to buy that product.
Two very interesting brother and sister. Have you ever teamed up on anything?
Oh, yeah. We've written together a lot.
Tell me.
Lots of commercials we've written together.
Yeah, we've worked on scripts and plays, and actually I wrote some stand-up for Lisa when she was starting, but not. It was hard because she has such a very particular point of view. It was really better for her to write her own stuff.
But I'll bet you could give her an idea and you would take it from there,
Oh
right?
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think and we still do that all the time. We'll read each other's stuff or we'll get help. Actually, Harris doesn't answer my emails a lot since he moved to Oregon, so I don't not not so much. So yeah,
You need to
he
make a
used-
trip up there to see
He
him.
used to help me, and now he doesn't. He's left us all, and he just pretends he's not even an Orkin anymore. I don't know.
No, but he's got the successful book that's out. Please, everybody, buy this book for Christmas. It's a terrific book. You only live once. It's about a mental patient, right? Who
Yeah.
thinks he's a
secret hero.
secret
Yeah,
hero. It's kind of neat. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he does. He
it's
believes he's like a super spy.
Yeah,
And
but
it's on sale right now too, actually, for $1.99 on Kindle.
oh,
yeah.
but you've also written some very, very successful films. A Saintly Switch with Vivica Fox. Also, Save the Dog. I mean, you both are just so successful in your own way. It's just pretty incredible. A long way since Dad and the Chickenman.
Yeah.
We owe it all to your father, don't you
Yeah,
think, Dick?
yeah.
And your mom. I'm sure
Yeah.
Mom too.
She was funnier than him, actually. So
Yeah.
She
yeah,
was actually.
She
Yeah.
was. She
Everyone,
was-
everyone always, when we talk to people about, they always bring up my mom as being the funny one.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
yeah, she was very funny, and his muse, I think. So yeah, so yeah, we like each other, Harris and I.
So with Harris, you've got the book, and also you're dealing moving forward on the video games. And with you
Yeah.
coming up now, any stand-up acts that we can see you in? And
No, but more podcasting. It's all about podcasting. So lots of new podcast projects. Scripts that I had done films on are turning into podcasts in the new year, and all of that.
Project
stuff.
Woo
Project
Woo.
Woo Woo.
And who's your next guest? Like, who are you having on
Oh,
next?
I just had Karen Rontowski was yesterday, and she's a really funny stand-up comic that she's a medium as well as a stand-up comic, and she was on yesterday, and she channeled Caroline Miss, she's like a medical medium, and so she
Oh,
channeled
cool.
her, and it was pretty darn funny. So yeah, she's coming up next, and I also have Carl Jung in studio in a few weeks.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow. That's incredible.
yeah,
Yeah, she has a lot of dead guests. And I think that's pretty impressive.
yeah. So yeah, lots of dead guests, but I believe they're real, and that's all that matters.
Yeah,
So,
you almost had me believing they were real too. I'm like, wait a minute, when did he go? It's like, woo. I had
Yeah.
to think for a minute. Anyway,
That's-
very
yeah.
interesting talking to you
Thank
too.
you.
So I really appreciate you both being on, just for me to talk about the evolution from radio into podcasting. I find very, very exciting, and to two people who came from such an interesting background with your dad.
Yeah.
So we can dedicate this show to your dad. How's that? And your
Yeah.
mom. What's your
Oh,
mom's
thank
name?
you.
Bunny.
Yeah.
So Bunny and Dick Orkin. This
Yep.
is for them. Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you both for being here. Enjoy Oregon and your Hanukkah
Thank
up there
you.
without your family.
Yeah, whatever.
And a happy Hanukkah to you.
Thank
and you
you.
brought your beautiful
Thank you.
daughter here
Yeah,
too. So
happy Hanukkah.
thank you very much. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas. See everybody later. And thanks for tuning in to Deborah Kobylt Live. We're on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio app, and Facebook, YouTube, and anywhere else you could find me. Just Google my name and you'll find me out there. Anyway, bye-bye.